Soybean is a big crop in Delaware and in the Mid-Atlantic region. In 2017, Delaware soybean farmers produced 5.5 million bushels on 175,000 acres. Being second crop after corn in this state, it generated almost $60 million in marketing receipt, actually almost as much as corn per acre. If soybean is valuable for Mid-Atlantic growers, it is also the target for several pests. One of these concerning creatures has been identified as the slug. Over the years, significant loss to this mollusk herbivore have been consistently reported. Attacking the plant in its early vulnerable stages, slugs are without any doubt impacting plant growth, sometimes even survival, and therefore reducing the yield of these precious beans. Even if quite efficient, classical chemical baits have some downsides. They are relatively expensive and will not last very long in rainy environments, leaking to groundwater. Chemical leakage can be a great concern in coastal regions where these chemicals will quickly end up in marsh or ocean water, impacting other valuable ecosystems. An alternate or complementary tool to control these slimy herbivorous invertebrates can be this big guy, a slug parasitic nematode. Nematodes are microscopic worms living in soil. Slug parasitic nematodes are not doing any harm to the soybean. They are actually beneficial, believe it or not. They are facultative parasite, meaning they can live on various organic substrate like plant debris in the soil and happily reproduce and do their nematode thing there. However, if a slug shows up, these nematodes will take their chance for a fresh meal and infect it. Penetrating into the body of the mollusk, they will kill it within about a week. Not only do they kill the slug, they will reproduce into its cadaver, and thousands of new nematodes will be produced, ready to infect the new mollusk herbivores and protect soybean. So one could say that these are really the good guys, taking care of the herbivore without, again, doing any harm to the valuable soybean plants. Here is an adult slug parasitic nematode, happily waving in water under a magnifying scope. After having infected a slug, they will kill it within about a week and reproduce into the cadaver. A slug infected by nematodes looks sort of liquefied and turned into a kind of soup that is, well, appealing for the nematodes. Slug parasitic nematodes are carrying their eggs in their body. Once matured, the eggs will hatch in the dying mother and the neonates will briefly mature in their mom body before emerging. Even if surprising, their way of reproducing is very efficient, and one slug cadaver will produce thousands and thousands of nematodes. This means thousands and thousands of natural enemies of the slimy monsters one wants to get rid of. Presence of these nematodes in American soils has not been very well documented so far. There are populations identified on the West Coast, but very scarce, if any, knowledge on their status on the East Coast. We therefore conducted a study where we were trapping slugs in several soybean fields using these shingle traps. Slugs were then carried back to the lab and processed. Slugs were individually placed into petri dishes to avoid cross-contamination. They were fed and checked bi-weekly for liquefied cadavers from which nematodes were isolated. Overall, we noticed that slug density was positively correlated with ground cover and that the number of slugs we captured was higher as the ground cover increased. Ground cover was either cover crop or crop debris, but in both cases was providing slugs nice and moist habitat as compared to bare dry soil. About 20% of the 1,700 trapped slugs were infected with nematodes, which is great news because this means that about 1 out of 5 slugs are potentially a reservoir of natural enemies eager to kill more slugs. This was quite consistent all over the state of Delaware, where most of the sampling effort happened. Nematodes were also isolated from slugs captured in Maryland and Pennsylvania. So what does this mean? Well, this is very encouraging. Slug parasitic nematodes are commercialized in Europe, but not registered yet in the US as they haven't been isolated in enough places yet. Here we have a chance to document the presence of this commercial species in the Mid-Atlantic region, increasing the chances for this alternative strategy to control slugs to be eventually registered in the US and readily available for soybean growers nationwide.